Baby, I've been out for so long, longer now than I was in. And I ain't saying I'm some cowboy. Right now I'd go back again. But I'm so thankful for my family, my wife and our 2 kids. Oh, most nights I thank God they don't know where I've been. We be painted on our faces, where we learn to walk the wire, where they fed us just like lions, and they watched us jump through fire. The way we walked around in circles, the way we worked into the ground. Well, I may not miss the circus, but I damn sure miss the clown. Oh damn, I miss those clowns. So that's why you find me out here, in a place you never feel. And I know that you don't understand, and I pray you never will. Where we painted on our faces, where we learned to walk the wild, where they fed us just like lions, and they watched us jump through fire. Way we walked around in circles, way we worked into the ground. Well, I may not miss the circus, the way they fed us just like lions, the way they watched us jump through fire. When they taught us we were fearless men, they turned us into liars. The way we walked around in circles, the way they trained us just like hounds. Well, I may not miss the circus, but I damn sure miss the clown. Oh, I may not miss the circuit, I will always be a clown.
Happy Monday night, folks. We have a heck of a show for you here tonight. We've got, we're talking industry news. Motor Guy dropped a bomb on the kayak industry with some news they just dropped out there. It's going to affect quite a few people coming up in the future. And on the second half of the show here, we got my man coming back to the show. This will be like his 3rd time here, Mr. Matt Stefan. Had a fantastic year. If you know anything about YouTube fishing tips and pro tips and hacks, this guy's got the channel for you. You don't want to miss this interview. We're going to go ahead and get everything fired up here right now. What's happening, folks? Welcome to the TPO Doc Talk podcast. We are, it's a heck of a week, man. So we've got a heck of a show tonight. This is going to be a ton of fun. Got my man Caleb coming to us. Caleb is one of the premier he's the camping manager at Johnstown Shields. These guys are pretty much the premier equipment dealer in the state of Colorado. They sell pretty much everything from head to toe when it comes to kayaks and fishing and camping and just about any and everything else that you can deal with going outdoors. So we figure we bring an expert in here, and we're gonna talk about this motor guide thing. If you don't know what happened out there, Motor Guide has announced they're not gonna make motors anymore. And they're sending folks that are registered with them to Lowrance and Simrad. So that's what the letter said. That's what we know to this point. So figured let's bring in some guys that are, a guy that's plugged in. He knows the stuff out there, and give us an idea of what in the heck's about to happen. So we're going to do that. Then we got Matt Stefan, of course. Dude, on a personal level, my daughter's getting married this week. What the heck? I'm not supposed to have a daughter that old that she can get married. But she's like, Jiminy Christmas, 26, I guess. Suppose it's allowed at 26. I got married a little bit after that, but yeah. So I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, obviously she's happy. So I'm happy for that, but it's my little girl, man. It's, this is a little weird. So yeah, we're heading off to Minnesota here in a couple of days, and then we'll be back in time for next week's show, of course. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit different here. Hey man, you get a chance, get out to the RomansWarriorFoundation.org. Go check out the website. Romans Warrior Foundation is the blood, heart, and soul of what makes the TPO fly, man. TPO, True Patriot Outfitters, we provide the services for the field ops division, the outdoor recreation, so on and so forth. But these guys got the GWAT wall. We got the Stop 22 tour. You saw Tyler J beginning one of his huge hits, The Circus. This is veterans making music for the form of creating healing for veterans out there. It's a perspective that only they can fully grasp and understand, man. So go check it out. RomansWarriorFoundation.org. If you want to find a way, helping is healing. There's all kinds of volunteer opportunities. If you want to connect the foundation with some corporations out there that are looking to help and support, that's a great way. Donations, obviously, always a great way. But if you're looking to make a difference out there, truly, the foundation is one of the most profound when it comes to getting into local communities and truly helping each other out through this. All right, man, let's get to talking some fishing here. Let's talk. So let's go ahead and bring my man in here, Mr. Caleb Zimmer, to the show. Welcome back, Mr. Zimmer. How the heck are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, Gene. How are you?
Man. Not too shabby.
Daughter's getting married at the end of the week, you said, huh?
Right? Thursday?
There's a lot going on.
It is.
That's awesome.
I don't know if it's hit me yet. I don't know
Right.
if I'm going to blubber, like a idiot when it happens. I don't know. I'll hold it together, but maybe later I'll be
For as long as you can anyway, right?
What happened?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know where it all went, but she's happy.
Good.
He seems to be a good dude, what I know of him, and so that's the main thing, right?
Yep. It's all that matters.
That's right. So, and this beauty is not my life, it's hers. She gets
Right.
to do what she wants to do with that.
Right.
I like to try to stay out of it.
Like, yeah.
So yeah, man. So Motor Guide, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's get right to it, man. They dropped a bomb on us out there because for those of you that are unaware, in the bow mount trolling motor game, there's pretty much really two players out there, but the most prolific one that is universally capable of amounting to just about any and every kayak out there is the Motor Guide XI3. This is a trolling motor made specifically for it. It's got the shorter shaft, it's got the shorter base, and you can get it with or without GPS. You can get saltwater, freshwater. And it's pretty much been the standard for a lot of years. And I've always wondered, why is nobody really truly trying to compete against them and really go out there? Now, Minn Kota's got its deal with Old Town, and
Right.
with a little bit of I think the Terova, a little bit of adjusting, you can mount those, but you have to go cut those shafts down though, right?
Correct.
In order to get those. Otherwise you got like a shaft that covers half your kayak, when you're trying to run there. So yeah, man, they're directing everybody in that letter to Lowrance and Simrad. So I went that way, and Simrad has something from Lowrance coming down the line called the Recon, still in the works, isn't here yet or whatever. That's on Simrad's page.
Right.
Lowrance of course has got the Ghost, but no kayak looking
Right.
I mean,
so I think
what's going to happen?
Yeah, so I think kind of where to start with this is to kind of understand the background, or like the tree, if you will, of what Lowrance Motor Guide Simrad, like what that is. So just like a ton of other companies in the fishing industry, there's a parent. That parent is Navco. Navco owns Motor Guide, Simrad, Lowrance. So those are all three under this umbrella. And so with all the innovation with Lowrance, and again, this is kind of speculation as to why things happen from what I've seen in the past and how things are going. I think the Lowrance specifically, that name resonates with more customers, bigger within the industry itself. And I think what we're going to see here is I think some of the popular motors that were under the Motor Guide name are actually going to become Lowrance motors. Now, the Ghost or the Recon, those are kind of your two players. Now, when you look at this kind of schematically, or like which one's going to fit on a kayak, well, a Ghost has an arm for a bass boat. Like that one's probably not going to work unless they come up with something. My guess is that the kayak motor, if they do bring one back, because again, it's all going to be determined based on like what they see a need for in the market, will be under the Recon name. If I had to guess, if I had thrown a dart at the wall, that's going to be my guess. Now, I do think this whole thing kind of opens the door for an opportunity for Minn Kota to insert themselves, because right now there is no kayak motor being produced that anyone really knows of besides your Newport. We're talking bow mount, so besides your stern mount options. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the next few months, if anything is kind of, going to be released or anything like that. You're right. Right now, you can buy a Tarova, a Power Drive. You can buy either of those units, and you can take them to Christie's Minn Kota in Windsor, Colorado. That's our guy. And you can chop it down to anywhere from 32 to 36, just kind of your preference. And you have it's a heck of a machine for those guys that fished our series. If you saw Sterling's this year, I mean, that thing was an absolute beast. Like
now, is that a 24 or 36 volt?
So his was a 24. Your standard is going to be a 12. So you can still get a 55-pound thrust Tarova with iPilot and a Power Drive for, with iPilot as well. So they're typically just going to be either a 45 or a 54-inch shaft, just depending on which model you end up going with. But either one can be cut, and it's pretty easy, and it's not incredibly expensive. Like it's actually very, very reasonable, and Christy does absolutely phenomenal work. He did Danny Gallegos and Sterling's motor. We sent him probably 6 or 7 motors this year to get chopped down. So I really, really hope somebody really jumps on this, whether that be Lowrance or Minn Kota. Power Pole's got the move that's out there for, $4,000 or $5,000. And then there's another company down in Florida, and I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but I think it's called like Rodon or Rodin. They actually make a bunch of trolling motors for skiffs. Now they're expensive. They're like $3,000, but they're crazy cool. They're super powerful. They use a really intricate satellite spot locking system too, so they have a really good spot lock option as well. I really hope Lowrance or Minn Kota kind of take control of this. And you know what? The thing that nobody's kind of talking about that I could totally see coming in on the back end here is Garmin releases a motor. Just like kind of out of nowhere. Hey guys, by the way, we're going to drop this. Because if you look at, the amount of people that are in kayaks, the amount of people that are fishing from a kayak, whether it be competitive or not, the sport has grown insane. And so with all the new boats coming out, what do you notice? They all have inserts for bow mount or stern. So somebody's gonna hop on it. It's gonna be awesome way, in my opinion, whether or not, it's, Minn Kota, Lowrance, Garmin. I really do think, any of those companies can really run with this.
So here's what my worry is, though. Motor Guide was the only company that was keeping the price reasonable.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you can call $1,300 reasonable, it was reasonable because we could put a motor on a kayak for, $1,300. There was a while where you were able to get some of those non-GPS ones for like $750, $800.
Correct.
You throw the GPS module in there and it brought it up. And then of course, supply chain, just everybody else, jumping on the bandwagon to jack prices up.
Right.
And next thing you know, we're up to 13, but nevertheless, it was still far better than the $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 option.
100%.
Because I worry is that they're going to make it so that, fine, you want a motor in the kayak game, now you got to drop, $2,000 just to get, something out there. Quite frankly, that's counterproductive, and we're stupid enough to pay it. That's the problem.
Right. If it's the only option, it's the only option. Now I can tell you, so a power drive from Minn Kota with a 55-54 power drive from Minn Kota with a transducer in the lower unit is $1,350 out the door. 55-54. You can take it to Christie's and get that thing cut for less than $200. So even in that situation, like Minn Kota's prices on those are going to stay the same because they think those are going on a 15-foot John boat. Like they're not that or, some other small skiff style option. Right. So, because the power drive that I'm talking about is $1,350 retail. Again, you're going to have to chop the shaft. Like that's just not going to be a kind of an option. Again, you can do it for less than $200. So now it would be awesome if they just made a power drive in a 36-inch shaft or a 34, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And then right from the get your $1,350. Because and again, I think a lot of people maybe aren't as familiar in the kayak world, aren't as familiar with trolling motors. Like they are the real deal. I mean, the spot lock feature is as good as it gets in the industry. Very, very reliable units. Not saying Motor Guide isn't, because obviously they did really, really well with the kayak motor. I just think that there's a window here. And to your point, I think that that $1,300 kind of that price point is really important.
I do too.
The majority of people to keep it there. Like now, if somebody who knows? Maybe Lowrance, Garmin, Minn Kota, maybe somebody says we've got a $1,000 trolling motor with spot lock, and then all of a sudden, you have it specifically for a kayak, and now there's this like holy cow, it's an even better product.
They would blast the market with it for sure. I mean,
100%. I mean, I think I just hope again, you said it before too. I just really hope that somebody jumps on this, because I think a lot of times, again, in that industry, there's so much that gets pushed to boats, saltwater, freshwater, whatever it is. And they don't really see how big of a market that there is in the kayak world. Because again, you're talking volume of units. There's more volume, that you could sell to a kayak potentially, just because so many more people could have them. And with everything coming out, I was talking about it with a guy in the Shields the other day. It wouldn't surprise me if in 5 to 10 years we carry like less pedal drive option and almost everything is going motorized, just with what it is. Like that's just kind of the way it's trending.
Sure.
Now I could also see it totally jumping back and going back to the Stone Age too, just with everything. But
all right.
Yeah, it's a super cool time to be in this game because there is so much changing so fast.
There, there really is. And to the side of what I was saying before, I just, what my hope is that we keep things at a reasonable, one of the cool things about getting in the kayak game, and yeah, guys like you and me, Caleb, we get extreme and we load way too much gear on our yaks. We buy way too much stuff than like three guys need. But that's the extreme side of it. People can get into the kayak fishing game relatively inexpensive, and they can get out and explore parts of the water that, quite frankly, you can't get to from the shores. And it's such an amazing experience to be in a kayak. The last thing I want to see is, this taking over, situation that puts you in a place where you gotta, dump 4 or 5 grand to go out there and do it. It's
100%.
One of the things that I personally really enjoy about having New Canoe, that collaboration that I have with them, is after I take guys out on the water and introduce them to this craft, and they ask me, what's something like that run? I feel really, really proud of showing them that, yeah, that unlimited, that flagship boat right there, that is, wicked stable. You can get into that thing for under 2 grand, man. Now, keep in mind, for under 1,000, you can go get yourself a kayak and get on the water. You
100%. Like we have a boat on the floor that it's one of my absolute favorite products that we carry because again, I kind of take my job as my entire like purpose of what I do at Shields is to get as many people into kayak fishing that I can. And so one of my favorite products we carry is the Pelican Catch 100. It's doesn't have really any bell and whistle and it's $600. And like again, yeah, I'm not saying $600 is cheap, but it gets you off the bank and it's an awesome platform. It's something you can stand in. It's very fishable. I mean, you can get into something like I started in, which was an 8-foot sit on top kayak that was $150.
Right.
I had one rod and that was it. And if I turned too fast, I flipped the whole thing over. So like like you can do it however you want. You can start wherever you want and you can end up wherever you want. I mean, I was in a Pro Angler 360 this year and, there was multiple times I was out fishing and thinking to myself, like, man, I can't believe where this started, where this is now. And, it's again, like to your credit, that's the thing though, is like, I don't want it to become something that, you are spending 17 grand to get an outfit and whatnot, but it still doesn't have to be that. Like, and it can be as minimal as you want it. It can be as, aggressive as you want it. Like the stuff you want to use to fish at Horsetooth, like the kayak that you're going to use there, like in the middle of the summer with all the boats going on, is so much different than what, hey, I go to Lawn Haggler every once in a while, or I pond hop a little bit. Like that doesn't have to be an insane setup. So,
and that's coming from the boat world, man. I can tell you, when I bought my brand new bass boat, I got in the last year before things went apeshit. Now, it still wasn't cheap, but it wasn't ridiculously expensive like it is now. It was still it was still a mortgage payment, for some folks to get into it, but it was nowhere near, 6 digits, which is pretty much where these guys, the guy that's going to be coming on here and 10, 15 minutes, he'll tell you his boat, rigged to the nines, that's, I'm sure, and so that's what I don't want to see happen to us. I love, like you said, man, you do you out there in the kayak. And that's why, that's one of the things I like so much about it, is that you have that freedom to do so. Dude, you guys up there, and you specifically, Caleb, have done a ton to help the kayak fishing anglers out there, the tournament anglers, people, getting on the water. It comes from your experience and, the fact that you're an angler's angler, man. And so,
man, I appreciate that.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah. I mean, I see the work you do out there. Obviously Johnstown Shields, those guys have, the selection of items through and through. They're pretty much, I mean, you guys are the premier location to go get stuff. I mean, I'll admit I go closer for me down here in the metro area. I stock some of those,
I get it.
And every time I'm like, damn it, I need to drive up there because I know they've got it in stock.
Right.
These guys don't even carry it, type thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a 5-year thing with that, with kind of growing that shop and really embedding myself with clubs and their communities and everything. And you guys, the entire club in general, both up here, down in the Springs, it's been absolutely ridiculous with the amount of support that we've gotten. And I try to repay that back as much as I can by taking care of guys when things go wrong, and just making it easy for us to have access to the latest and greatest things. And I love getting your guys'. I think one of the greatest parts about this group in Colorado specifically is, man, I put a post out there about that Hobie boat on the club page, last week. There's like 30 comments on it, just providing me with information, because that's what I got. That's what I want to know is, to check the pulse of everybody. Like, where are we at? What do we want? What are we looking for? Because that's the name of the game in my world, in the retail space, and just getting what we want to use. And it's just been an incredible experience to be a part of. And never thought this would be my job and whatnot, but it's been a heck of a ride. And those XTRs are going to be at the store here pretty quick, and I'm excited for those. And that whole thing is going to blow up, and see what happens with that too.
And you would think that I'd be super excited about that thing, but I got to tell you, I went that route initially with the Yak, dude. I went all the way to the point of getting, had a twin kayak trailer. I went, that's the way I was going to do it. And I found myself coming back. I actually really enjoy the fact that Unlimited is, while she's big and she's stable, and Lord knows I put way too much stuff in it,
right,
and it can handle 650 pounds. It's got that weight distribution. Right. But while it has that, I find myself thinning out stuff as I go and becoming a little bit more of a minimalist. And I like being in the back of my truck, dude, where I can just pull off the side of the road as long as it's public land, and I can drop that kayak down, and I'm hooking batteries up and motors real quick, and boom, I'm gone. And so it's like, there are times I wish I had a smaller kayak. Actually, there really are. So
yeah, that's the whole. Again, you said that's the whole thing. And then kind of a cool thing that's going to happen in January this year. I'm actually going to be giving a seminar at the Denver International Sportsman's Expo on this exact thing.
Nice.
Kind of covering different kayaks, how to get into it, what it is, that whole thing. I'm really excited about it.
That is so cool.
Yeah, the Wickstroms reached out to me a couple days ago and asked me if I'd be interested, and I was like, say less. Let's do it. Well, so I'm really excited for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And again, it's just going to be kind of covering, because I want people to know that it doesn't have to be this crazy, insane deal. It can be as small as you want it to be. And that too. And it's different for everyone. That's the thing. Like, there's plenty of guys I know that can't wait for that XTR to show up so they can put an NK300 on the back, a Ulterra or something crazy on the front.
Yeah.
4 graphs and foot pedals, and
got the cracking running off the front of the thing. Right? Well, and that's the other thing to this, man, that goes hand in hand. Lithium batteries have made this possible, man.
And amped outdoors. Amped outdoors.
100%.
Favor. Anyone listening to this, anyone that's in the market for a battery, if you're going to buy a lead acid, don't wait. Save up. Get yourself a lithium. Specific. I have not had as great an experience as I've ever had with an amped outdoors battery. I know it sounds insane, and I'm getting like way over the top excited about it, but they are the best.
They're badass, man.
You're going to spend $300 plus on a battery, you should buy theirs. Yeah, I actually saw a really cool thing. Again, going back to we did a training seminar for Shields, in back in I think it was in April, and Ants showed up, and the guy disassembled their battery and showed us what the inside looks like. You won't, like, all the consumer ever really sees is this black piece of, plastic that goes around it. you should see the insides of batteries.
Yeah.
And if you want to know why you should buy an amped, that's why.
So I had the chance to go by their headquarters there in Wisconsin when I was up in Minnesota visiting my daughter last year. Drove across the river there and jumped over and saw them. And yeah, inside their test lab, they're so professional about this that they won't even mention this. But dude, they had some top name brand batteries all disassembled on their bench, and theirs right in the middle of it. And I'm telling you right now, I will maintain the professionalism that they choose to do.
Yep.
There are some heavy name batteries out there that people really like and know that look like a 12th grader got in there with a soldering gun and some baling wire and built the insides of the stuff. And then you look at the amped, manufactured, internal, the BCM and such in there.
Right.
It is a quality and only grade A cells being used by them. Yeah. I'm with you, man. The Amped has been a huge supporter of ours from day one. We love Matt and those guys over there, and
they're awesome.
Actually, I'll let you in on a little deal because he just agreed to it over email today.
Cool.
Bassmaster Classic will be going back on a media pass again, like we did last year.
That's awesome.
And we're actually going to be broadcasting several days from the Amped Outdoors Energy booth.
Oh man, that'll be fun.
We're going to set up, he's going to give us about 3 foot of a table there. We can set up our gear and we'll try to get some interviews done. And so we're going to be doing that Amped Power Hour, maneuver there. And we'll see what we can do from the Classic this year. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. That Bluetooth stuff they've got too is super cool. I hope they put it into their smaller batteries, but it's the real deal too for guys in boats. Through
and through. So to sum this all up, man, Motor Guide's going down. Possibly going to be seeing that motor rebranded. Maybe, who knows, maybe Lowrance Simrad going to grab it. Let's hope Minn Kota sees this, jumps on board and says, okay, there's a market here. Even if it's 1,000 motors a year, which you and I both know it'll be 10, 20, 30, 40,000 moters a year across the country.
Right.
But even if it were just 1,000, it's worth the effort, man. Give us a 36-inch shaft.
That's all we need.
Hit that product pricing point somewhere in that $1,300, $1,400 range, and that would be really nice to see. And hopefully, guaranteed, if you're here in Colorado, get to Shields. If you're around, if you're near a Shields, go check them out. Go online to shields.com, Shields Outdoors. Check them out. Caleb, I can't thank you enough, dude, for taking the time here. Again, thank you for everything you do for everybody here. All the guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I'm looking forward to it.
It was a blast, as always.
Sounds good, man. We'll be chatting at you soon.
Sounds good, man. See you.
All right.
All right.
All right, folks. We're moving over to part 2 now. We're going to stow the kayak game for a little bit here. And although I'm definitely going to ask the dude to see if I can get him in a kayak next time I'm out in Wisconsin out there. I'll bring an extra one that's got his name on it. We'll see if we can get him out there fishing. He'll put a schooling on us. Sitting in the green room right now, I see him sitting here. None other than returning to the show, our buddy, professional angler, Mr. Matt Stefan. Matt, welcome to the show, man.
Howdy. Thanks for having me back on.
Dude, thank you. We sincerely appreciate this. This is it's been long overdue. We've been staying a little busy, so this is super cool, man.
Yeah, I don't even remember. We talked, was it over a year ago at this point?
So 3 years ago you first came on, and then like 2 years ago you came on again. Yeah. It was like, I want to say it was probably 2021, 22 range. Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, we've been following you. You've been putting out content for a long time, brother.
Yeah, I start forgetting what day it is at this point. It's a lot of time and a lot of effort to keep this whole train rolling forward. So there's a lot of podcasts, a lot of videos, a lot of content that's been created, and it all starts to roll together at some point.
And you did a video. I watch as much of your stuff as I humanly possibly can, because somewhere along the line, folks at home, a lot of our viewers here, they may or may not know who you are here, just because we have a lot of veteran community that are getting, breaking themselves into the fishing side. And I send literally everybody that I talk to, especially if they're brand new or even if they've had some experience, I send them to your site. I'm like, listen, you have like a pedigree somewhere of an educator. when you listen to you explain things, even for a guy like me, who's back here, licking windows, I even get it, man. You've taught me some stuff. It's like that resonates with you. You just have an educator's like approach to stuff, but yet you never, to those of us, on the topics that we have experienced, you're never talking down. It's super cool, man, the way you put stuff together.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I can't say that there's any sort of training or background with respect to how I go about portraying my information. The reality is, though, when you're talking about fishing, and I would argue this point nonstop, that there is no right or wrong answer. We're not teaching historical facts. We're teaching how to try to improve your success rate, right? Like in terms of catching fish. And there's no right or wrong answer. You could go out there and have a great day in the water and you think you did everything right. And in reality, maybe had you made one tweak, you would have caught twice as many fish, so it's kind of one of those things where there's no right or wrong answer. It rubs me the wrong way when I do watch people that, provide content or educational information. And this is the only way. Right. This is the only way. And it's like, we're talking about a living creature. So there is no right or wrong answer. I just like to provide information, and most of it off of, out of my own personal experiences, which at this point you're talking about hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of hours of bass fishing time, on the water. So I like to think I can bring some value. And it's up to the viewer to decide whether they want to actually try to implement it into their own fishing style.
I love it, man. I love it. That's so true. It's so true. The only absolute is there are no absolutes, and it's a matter of, I'm always skeptical, back in the days when I was driving around with the boat and doing some stuff out of state and in state, and you'd start talking, and all of a sudden that guy that just is so sure that this is what it's going to be, immediately the alarms go off. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to listen to this dude at all.
Yeah. There's only a handful of things that I can think of in fishing where it really is like, you really, really should be doing something. Like if you're frog fishing and you're not throwing braided line,
right,
you're probably making a mistake. But like the reality is there's very few finite answers within the fishing world.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, you always, your experience has been a big deal. I want to just kind of cover that real quick, if you don't mind. How long have you been chasing the brown and green fish around the country on the professional side of things?
Yeah. So this was my 14th year fishing at the professional level. So, it's basically been I started out fishing the FLW tour, which over the last couple of years merged into the Major League Fishing, and then last year I fished the Bass Pro Tour, so they're top level with respect to that. So I've been fishing professional level tournaments for 14 years. It's been my full-time job for the past, I think this was my 10th year where it was my sole source of income. So it's been a while. I've been fishing before I started fishing professionally. I was fishing 25 local to regional tournaments a year. So, which doesn't probably sound like a lot to some of the guys that fish down south, but in Wisconsin, we only have open water for 8 months, 9 months out of the year. So
6 to 8 months. Yeah.
Quite a bit down. So I've been doing it. I've been doing it a long time at this point.
You an ice guy? You like to ice fish at all?
Not if
Me
I
neither.
like to do it with a group of people.
Okay.
Like I like to go out. It's more of just a friendly type, get together thing. I'm not one. I have the equipment, but I'm not one just to say, hey, I'm going out. I'm going to sit on the ice by myself today. Like I'm not doing that.
It strikes me more as a social outing. That's
100%.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, for sure. And I'll be honest, I have a hard time. I can't even fish that way when the water's soft. It's such a passive, method. For me personally, I'm active. I like to stay on the move.
Yeah. I have gotten into like with my two boys now, like it is fun to throw some tip ups in the ice and watch the flags. And if you get a flag that goes off, you can chase them down. But if I had my choice, I mean, honestly, it's not a huge part of what I do, just from the standpoint of like, I love to fish right up till ice out. Like my favorite time to fish is this time of year. I mean, I would say 90% of the fishermen are not fishing, they put the boat away, or they're in the woods chasing, something on land.
Yep.
So from that standpoint, it gives, like, I just feel like I have the pick of the lakes in my area, and I can generally do that right up until around Thanksgiving. We usually freeze over middle of November, somewhere in there. But once that happens, then you start talking about like the holiday season kicking into gear. So there's not that much time to do the ice fishing thing anyways. And then as soon as we roll around into the new year, you're talking about, the tournament season starting generally sometime in January. It's been as early as the weekend after New Year's, and it's been as late as early February. But the reality is there's a lot of time and effort that goes into prepping for the tournament season and getting the boat ready and doing all that, where I'm not that interested in spending my time out on the ice.
So we got a great comment coming from our brother out in Missouri here. He says ice fishing alone is a sign of a psychopath.
I didn't say that.
No. Jimmy said that. Jimmy will own that. Yeah. That's for sure. Hey, got a lot of people tuning into us here right now. I want to thank everybody for all the comments going up on Facebook and YouTube. Much appreciated, all y'all. Just looks like a bunch of some fish, some what's ups, this and that going on here. So we sincerely appreciate you guys doing that. So you got the family, man. You got the two boys. You got the wife there. I mean, that keeps you busy in what would be an off season. And that's what really started when you started. You were going through and you were taught. You did a video about a poll that you put out, and man, I watched that video a couple times over because you really made some points there, and especially with some of the comments that folks were talking about for you. But before we get too far into that one, I want to talk about this last season here. Bass Pro Tour, the highest level that the MLF offers, man. You're fishing against the best of the best. It's like an all-star game every outing there for sure. Regardless of what fans, think this or that, it doesn't really matter to me. It's the anglers that are involved out there that I pay close attention to. What was that like, man? That Bass Pro Tour, going out there and going, elbow to elbow with some of the greats. And also this was, it was KVD's retiring year, man. That's kind of a, one of the best to ever do it in the tournament game, right?
Yeah. I have such mixed feelings about this year as a whole. I've fished against pretty much all of those guys for a long time. Before the BPT even started, a lot of them were FLW Tour veterans. A lot of them were, fishing the Elite Series. And at this point in my career, I know most of these guys. So there's not really a starstruck feel to it, but there is, like, I feel like the competitive aspect gets ramped up because it's like, you want to beat your buddies, right? Like there's that aspect to it as well. So really cool. One cool little story with Van Dam. So he was one of the few guys that I don't think I've ever fished against. He was fishing. He may have come over and fished. I'm probably wrong. I think he fished a couple of the super tournaments when Major League Fishing merged with the FLW Tour. But anyways, one of the coolest things, and this is something that I'll remember for a long time. So I was fishing the Red Crest event on Lay Lake, and where the tournament goes out of is a ramp called Beeswax. It's right in Beeswax Creek, which is where Van Dam actually won one of his Bassmaster Classics. And we had a day of practice where I launched at Beeswax. And it was, so like he won it in the back end of Beeswax. So you've got a bridge. He won it behind the bridge. And then right next to the bridge is the boat ramp. Well, we had a day that, it was just terrible fog. Just so dense that you couldn't see the end of your cast. Right. So I put my boat in and I'm like, you know what? I want to fish around the back end of Beeswax Creek. So I'll just kind of put the trolling motor down at the ramp and work my way under the bridge and go into the back area. And I get to the bridge and like the sun is just it's like just breaking the tree line. So it was kind of like it was kind of making the fog worse, but it was giving the fog like a golden color. And I could see there was a boat probably, I mean, it wasn't far, maybe 50 yards away, 2 cast lengths, something like that. And I just was looking at it, and it was like it was like watching a Busch Light commercial, where there was a silhouette of a bass boat, and all you could see is the silhouette and the guy cast in a little bit and the fog in the background. And I was just watching, and just through like the motion of the angler, I was like, that's KVD. I'm like, I know without a doubt that's KVD. And he was literally fishing the place where he won the Bassmaster Classic. It was I think it was the last morning of practice for that
Nice.
Red Crest event. So it's just like, that's one of my fondest memories from the year. Because growing up, in the upper Midwest here, like Kevin Van Dam was kind of the guy that I always rooted for when I was growing up. And
Sure.
He's the only guy I've ever kind of fanboyed, I guess you could put it that way. Like I remember working a trade show. I was probably 18 or 19, and I was working a trade show. It was the Madison, Wisconsin Fishing Expo, and he happened to be the guest speaker there. And there was a buddy of mine that somehow, I don't know how he did this, but he got Van Dam to come by the booth and act like he was really good buddies with my buddy. And he came over to the booth, and I was like running around trying to find something to get him to autograph. And it was one of those surreal moments as a young angler for me. So he's just been somebody that I've always looked up to. I loved that the style of fishing, and to kind of have that memory from this year fishing the Bass Pro Tour of what was really his last Bass Pro Tour event, because he didn't fish the season, but he'd fish Red Crest. So it was pretty cool.
So the only Van Dam story I have is me being a complete idiot. I get like hyper focused, like I put blinders on from time to time. I have a hard time allowing myself to multitask on things. I'm at the first Red Crest, La Crosse, Wisconsin. We're there, and I'm walking around. I just had traded in my Nitro or my Triton for a brand new Nitro Z21 that was being ordered and built and on its way. So there at Red Crest, I go to the Nitro booth, and standing there, guys like Timmy Horton and Andy Montgomery and, all Edwin Evers is there. Now, Ed has always been my spirit animal. I like this guy's motor, man. He is a ultra competitor, high rev motor, like super meticulous. Before I'm watching him prepping before that super tournament, and he's cleaning his motor off. Right. He's got a rag and he's wiping it down before he blasts off and takes off. Yeah. Cause you never know when the camera's going to get it. That's the kind of guy Ed is. Well, I'm there at Red Crest. Ed's there. He's not fishing that day. And, I'm sitting here, and he and Van Dam are standing next to each other. And, I can't remember so I'm standing there, and I see Ed, and I'm like, I want Ed's autograph, but I want a picture with Kevin for sure. So I come walking up, and I've got an E2 hat in my hand, General Tire E2 hat that I'm going to have Ed sign. And as I walk up, I'm like, hey, Kevin, would you mind? Well, he sees me with the hat, and he pulls out a pen. He goes, yeah, not a problem. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want your autograph. I just wanted a picture if you don't mind. And I'm like, did I just tell Kevin Van Dam I didn't want his autograph? My wife is like, yeah, you kind of did that.
Did you get the picture?
Yeah, I got a good picture with him.
Right.
Yep. And the look on his face is like, this guy. No, Kevin's fantastic. All those guys that I've met have been super fantastic, real easy to chat with. Yeah, man. No, so back to the deal here, man. You've been duking it out from the FLW to this here. I mean, you've got more experience than most guys that are out there, especially in today's Bassmaster Elite field. There are some guys, I think you probably have tennis shoes that are older than some of those guys that are, that are out there competing these days. It feels like it's a young, group.
Yeah,
there's
around. Actually a lot of guys on both circuits that were my co-angler at one point. I mean,
wow.
Like that's kind of a weird thing too, where it's like, man, I've been doing this long enough now where there's guys fishing at the top level that were actually paired with me, by random draw as a co-angler.
Wow. That's crazy to see that come full circle like that. Cause you're not an old guy. You're a young dude, man. I mean, that's
40,
cool.
44.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm young or old at this point. It depends who you talk to. My roommates this year all called me the old man in the house. And that's, Drew Gill, who's 22, and then Matt Becker and Spencer Sheffield are both like, I don't know, early 30s or whatever. So they called me the old wise man.
You're going to bed at like 9. they're staying up till 9:30 like the youngins do.
yeah. That was it was a pretty good house from that standpoint. Generally,
it's awesome.
Generally, like, everyone likes to sit up and talk, and next thing you know, it is like 11, 12 o'clock, and you got to get up at 4. And our household was pretty good about going to bed at like 9:30, 9 o'clock, which even though we were having a great time joking around, it was just kind of like, it was pretty serious when it came to, why we were there. It was a work day.
So that brings me to this. So I'm going to say something, and it's just from a fan standpoint out here. The landscape for you guys nowadays as professional anglers is the craziest, off the charts, makes no damn sense. It used to be pretty easy to piece things together.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell, and I'll just say this, and I don't mean, like I said, any disrespect, because I love every last one of the anglers that's out there making a living and competing. I absolutely do, whether I know them or not. But I don't know what the hell the MLF is doing now with how they're setting things up, what direction that's going. But even Bass is doing something now with EQs and opens and this and that. What happened to just the pretty easy to figure it out type thing? So one of the things about your poll was where you're going to go with the future here. What are you any further ahead there? What's next season looking like for you right now?
No, I'm really not. We got a little bit more clarity, I guess, with the NPFL schedule came out. The Bass Open schedule, I've actually got texts blown off of my phone right now from other anglers saying that the Open schedule's coming out tomorrow. So
nice.
Really, like, for the anglers, we need to have clarity, and a lot of that clarity it's not really locations or lakes. A lot of it is dates. There are certain sponsor requirements that I need to be at. There's, and even if there's not necessarily a direct conflict with that, I like to see how it lays out, right? So if I'm in Texas and then 2 days later I got to be in Florida or New York or something, you got to look at logistics of everything. Yeah. For me, I really don't care what lakes we fish. I fish most of them at this point, and unless it's going to be something in the Wisconsin or Minnesota area, which is very, very rare, I'm driving 14 plus hours anyways. So it's not like
you there, brother.
You would know exactly what I'm talking about. So, hopefully when that schedule comes out, I've got some things that the issue I have with the state of the tournament organizations is how I would put it. Because the more I do this, the more I feel like it's not truly a sport. It's a marketing vehicle and business platform. But the issue I have is I don't have the clarity in terms of the directions and the goals that I want for myself. So I've done a lot of things. The one thing I really would like to do is fish a Bassmaster Classic at some point. Like, that's one thing that I think would be great. So, from that standpoint, there's only really one way to do that, and that would be to go the Bass direction. The thing is, though, like, for me to look at the elites, and I've got tons of friends that fish the elites, and we talk daily, and it's the same stuff really going on over there that's going on at the Bass Pro Tour. So it's not like I don't have this clear direction that one league is better than the other. I look at it, you look at positives and negatives, and I feel like they're pretty even. So I think anglers really truly need to look at what their personal goals are and what makes more sense to them. And I don't know that you can fault an angler for choosing any direction at this point, but the problem I have is I don't have that direct clarity. Like, I know I want to be in the elites, or I know I want to be in the Bass Pro Tour, which really is concerning to me, because as somebody that's been in this for so long, I feel like I would have that, but I feel like it's really an issue with respect to the sport, that there's just not like this great option. I mean, no matter what option I choose, or if you qualify for any of those options, you're ponying up $75,000 to fish. Like, to go to work, I'm paying that, and there's no guarantee you're going to get anything back. And and a big part of that with me too is I've built my personal brand to the point through YouTube where, like, a lot of what I do supports the sponsors more than my tournament fishing. So, like, the sponsors are like, just do what makes you happy, or, as long as you keep doing the YouTube stuff, we're supporting you. So from that standpoint, it's absolutely phenomenal to have that support from my sponsors. But I'm gonna, once we get that last schedule out, basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it all into a big calendar, a big spreadsheet, look at, what makes most sense for me. I'll run the full financial numbers and try to figure out what's, the either the most potentially lucrative, or you just got to look at your risk reward ratio. And I'll sit down with Sarah, my wife, and we'll figure out what's best for me. But the nice thing is I don't feel any pressure. Like, I don't feel any stress, and I feel like that's just a good thing with respect to where I'm at and my support from my sponsors. And I think it's just a matter of, okay, we're gonna pick a direction for this year, see how it goes. And honestly, if you, depending on what the schedule looks like the following year, we'll make a pick off that. So
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's a lot of anglers right now that are very, very stressed regarding their careers. And a lot of that just goes back to they've done it for a while. This is what they love to do. They've had good, solid fishing careers. The problem is they don't have they haven't built their personal brand to a point where that can kind of withstand the ups and downs of tournament fishing. And that's a concern for a lot of anglers.
I was getting ready to ask you that. And in your opinion, it feels like the days of old where if you're winning tournaments, that's really all that matters. That's pretty much gone, it seems like. And in my opinion, that it's not just about the winning, because I mean, there's a couple guys out there that I'm sure, I'm not speaking to their character. What I am saying is a couple guys that can win some tournaments, but it's like talking to a sponge. There's not, they don't have a real big presence online. You don't see much there, and you don't see them. They win it. They're on a couple posts, they're on a couple, maybe a magazine article, and then they fade away. And there's the same guys like yourselves that continue to, have that type of business sense that you seem to stand, through that. And it feels like the industry's kind of gone that way with the sponsor support. Do you see that as well, or is it in the process?
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of lived that, my first 10 years, I always wanted to make the career out of my tournament performance. Like, I knew that I needed to go after sponsors and try to sell myself, but I always wanted to be somebody that sold themselves off of their tournament performance, if that makes sense. I always felt like if I had the wins and the top tens, it would be easy to knock on a sponsor's door and get them to jump on my bandwagon. I did it for 10 years, and I was very, very consistent with respect to cashing checks, making championships, like, having really good overall seasons. The problem is, if you're not winning, or I'll say coming in the top 5, on a very regular basis, you really have a very difficult time trying to do that. You can cash checks and make, somewhat of a living by fishing those tournaments, but you're not going to draw the sponsor dollars. You're not going to draw the bigger dollars that will actually make it a full-time gig.
Right. Right.
When you really look at your expenses, even if you had a good year fishing and won $100,000, the reality is you probably made $30,000 that year. Like, so you need to have some funds coming in from some other sources, whether that's within the fishing industry or outside the industry. The point is, you got to have some other way to generate some income. the guys that are really doing well in the sport are the guys that can do both. The guys that are consistently fishing at a high level and have built their personal brand up. They're the ones that are going to draw the larger sponsor dollars. And, that's where you can start looking at potentially a lucrative career. But, like I said, I've kind of lived it at this point. Like the first 10 years, I fished at a high level. In my opinion, I fished at a high level, and, sponsorships did not come easily.
Right.
And not that they'd never come easily. Let me be clear with that. But right now with my YouTube channel, I feel like I have really built up my relationships with my sponsors and brought on new sponsors. And most of it is centered around the YouTube stuff versus, my tournament performances. And that just has to do with they know they can get a return off of that versus really what you're doing is gambling on picking an angler to have a high finish. So like if they know they can get a return on their dollar, a guaranteed return, that's a much safer bet for them. And I'm experiencing that right now with, Core Tackle being a part owner of Core Tackle. We have discussions regarding, do we sponsor anglers? Do we not sponsor? Who do we help? Who do we get us to help with some of our marketing? And we truly do look at it kind of like if you're going after somebody that's just a tournament angler, somebody that even, has great finishes, but don't have much of a marketing platform for their own personal brand. It's kind of like you're just rolling the dice on them. You're hoping that they have high finishes. And this sport, as we see, it's a really difficult sport to cash a check, let alone have a top 10 or win a tournament. I mean, there's no guarantees.
For sure, man. And that's one of the things talking on that same line that I wanted to ask you about is one of the viewers actually made this comment, and I could tell when you were going over this that it truly was kind of in your head. And that was one of the options was forget the tournaments, just go all in on YouTube content creation, man, and just, roll that direction and maybe fish some bucket list stuff here and there, type deal, pick off onesie twosies. Yeah. How much is that still is that still in the wheelhouse as a possibility to consider?
I'm going to fish something next year. Like I am an addicted bass tournament angler. Like I need my fix of that. And doing a couple of larger.
Y'all got any more than tournaments?
Yeah, I mean it's like I'm itching right now. It's been a while since the last event. So like from that standpoint, I really want to fish. And I think a part of that is because I feel like I'm still at an age where like I can, if I'm gonna make it happen, it's much better. I don't think it's going to get easier for me, right? Like,
right.
I'm getting older, back's starting to hurt, things are starting to hurt, and I'm just not ready to say no to that chase. So I'm definitely fishing something.
That's awesome.
But I honestly, I think I could make an extremely, extremely good case to give up tournament fishing to go after, the content side of it. The problem is I can't like that. That's what I would do for fun, right? Like I would pick up a job to pay for my tournaments. So like from that standpoint, I might as well work the tournaments into my business platform. But in reality, it's almost like you're trying to do that to break even with the hopes that maybe you crack a big one,
right.
And it gives me the opportunity to put some content out there. There's some opportunity to work with sponsors because of it. So there's definite value to the tournaments, but it's not like it used to be, when you had one circuit, it was the Bassmaster circuit, and there was one clear path for everyone that wanted to fish. And now you've got all these different circuits, different levels. There's a much larger percentage of anglers out there trying to make a career that are, making content or making, calls to sponsors. Like it's a really difficult road to hoe. I've talked with a lot of high school and college teams, and it's like, it's really a difficult thing to try to relay that to kids that want to, this is their dream.
Right. You don't want to be that dream crusher, right?
You don't want to crush them, but you want to give them the realistic viewpoint as to how to go about and do it. And if you truly love the sport and, sleep, eat, fish type thing, you're probably going to be able to figure out a way to make it work. But,
right.
If you're just walking into the sport going, I can fish well and people are going to come to me because of it, it's those days are gone at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of hitting it big, man, I never got a chance to, I put a couple comments up online when you did this, but back in 2023, the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals came to your neck of the woods up there. They dared step into La Crosse, Wisconsin. And brother, you put on a show there, man, because while the weights may have ended up somewhat close, man, I have fished La Crosse a lot. Couple times now out of a kayak and a lot out of a boat. And for you to go out there and put a pair of 16-pound bags on the scales at La Crosse, that's not an easy task to do up there. I mean, it is a beautiful, awesome fishery, but to go, out of three total days, to be able to put a pair of those days up at over 16 pounds, dude, you landed into something there, and you got the stop. I guess it was stop number 6 in 2023, Mississippi River, and you put it down there. You sealed the deal, getting that.
Yeah.
What was that? I mean, I know it's trying to recall back like over a year ago now, but what was that? How'd that all come through?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's felt like a lot of relief, to be honest with you. Like, you kind of get the monkey off the back. I've had some close calls, and I've had the fish on to win a lot of tournaments, and haven't had it go my way. And yeah, in that case, it wasn't like I didn't have a big pile of fish anywhere. I had a stretch. It was probably a quarter-mile long stretch of eelgrass that had a good population of fish, and it just was kind of one of those things I could pick it apart. The problem was I was locking to another pool, and we had a barge in the lock in the morning and a barge in the afternoon, so I really only got to fish like 3 hours each day. So and the funny thing is, like, I think it was 7 of the top 10 of us were all going to the same pool. So, like, they all were doing it in the same amount of time that I was, which was really impressive. But the river's fishing really well right now. The weights this year. So, like, last year's weights were good. I think I won with, I don't know the exact, it was right around 48 pounds. So, like, 16 a day for 3 days. And, like, this year, the weights were several pounds higher than that. It felt like, there were a lot of 20-pound bags being weighed in local tournaments, and I don't know exactly what the cause was of that, but the fish are fat and healthy right now. Yeah, it's one of my, it's one of my favorite places to fish, but I don't fish there that much. I get over there like once a year. I fished it. I didn't fish it at all this year. Last year was the only time I fished it was that tournament, and I hadn't been there since, I think it was 2 years prior to that we had a tournament there. So, I mean, I really don't get there a lot. The thing is, I live on the Wisconsin River, which to me is a mini Mississippi River.
Right.
Instead of the pools being 30 miles long, we have a dam every 15 miles, and they set up really, really similar, and it's my favorite way to fish. I love current. I love river fishing. So it just jives with me really well. And,
and the Wisconsin comes in right in pool 8 there, I think, as well, right?
No, the Wisconsin comes in down on Prairie du Chien pool.
Oh, is it 10?
Pool 10, yeah.
I thought it was up. I guess there's I'm
you're thinking
route.
The Black River or the Eau Claire River. There's several large rivers.
Eau Claire.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's one of my favorite places to go there. I love the diversity between the pools. Each one is kind of their own little ecosystem to get up there. And now that I'm doing it out of a kayak, it's even more fun because I'm getting back into areas that I was afraid to run that lower unit through, type thing. Now I can bounce off of stuff all day long and I'm fine. Yeah. But it is an awesome deal. And I'll tell you, man, one of my favorite pictures, it seemed like what you just said was a picture with you, with your wife and the kids. And there was this look on your face like, about damn time. And it's like, there we go, man. I mean, that's because it takes such a perfect storm to come together for you guys to get one of those, man. It's
It was
a
well,
wicked
it was
deal.
a huge emotional drain for the whole family because, like, and I didn't know a lot of this was going on, but the last day we really thought we were going to get locked out. Like, I sat for 2 hours,
Oh,
and it just was it did not look good. Like, we made it back with a couple minutes, but it somehow we got back. Like, somehow we got through. But being that it was in La Crosse, it's only a couple hours from where I live. So I had a lot of family and friends that were there and they were watching on the live. And like,
oh,
my wife knew I had the win. I didn't know I had the winning fish really until like at the lock. I actually talked with the guy that was leading the first day and I knew I had him by about a pound at that point. But so my whole family went through like this big emotional relief too. And it was the if you're familiar with La Crosse, when you take out of Pool 8 on the Clinton Street Landing, there's like a mile, maybe not a mile, half mile, like a 10-minute no wake to get to where you can run. So like for me, it was funny because I had some people come up to me and they're like, "Man, you were not that, like, you were kind of stone faced on stage like after it happened." And the reality is, because I had a complete breakdown, like in that no wake zone. Like my camera guy's got a camera in my face, like, "How does it feel?" And I couldn't talk. I mean, I was bawling like a baby. Like it was there were so many things. Like it was, I felt like I vindicated my career. I thought I had lost the tournament because I wasn't going to make it through the lock. And then you get through the lock and you got it. And then I saw my family on the docks and it just was like a complete loss to the point where, there's a long period between when you check in to when you actually weigh your fish, where I felt like I had completely gone through, like I had my emotions flowing earlier to the point where I had nothing left to give, like on the stage. So it was kind of funny, but ultimately it was just a huge feeling of relief for us. And
that's awesome, man.
it's one of those you want to have that happen at every tournament.
Yeah. And it's not even remotely close, but my stuff had been in the dumpster fire for a long, long, long time. And my results were just never where I expected them to be, and like I said, I'm not fishing anywhere near remotely even close to the level that you were at, or still currently are at. But that release of, damn it, it's about time. When that lands on you, man, and you realize, I had a small deal of it up at Lewis and Clark Reservoir on the Missouri River. We were fishing a deal. I was in like fifth after day one. Day two, it was only a 2-day event. Day two, I fell down to like 11th. And then I finally just kind of let loose, got a jig in my hand and went to work. My kid, who's watching the live take place as I'm submitting fish, he's sending me a text, "Hell yeah, Dad, keep going." And dude, I mean, it lifted up. And at the end of the day, when I realized, I don't know where I landed, but I know I put up a big, a pile of fish. I missed second place by like a quarter inch or whatever, but yeah, I had a similar, thank God, finally went out and did what I know I could do, type thing. Cause it truly is you fishing against you. It's not you against everybody else.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the funny, a lot of anglers, I think the average angler that don't tournament fish, there's like it's a weird thing because when you do well in a tournament, it's not necessarily like all that exciting because there is part of you that's like, I did what I was supposed to do.
Right.
Like, that's right. Why I'm doing this. Right. So like for me, when I have a bad tournament, I am so much harder on myself for that than when I win a tournament, when it's like just a relief, like, okay, I did what I was supposed to do, on to the next one at this point. So it's funny how you talk to most tournament anglers, at least the ones like who are doing very well, the tournaments that they do bad in are like eat them alive. And the ones that they do good in, man, it was a good tournament. Let's go to the next one. And right. It's just like the highs and lows don't level out there.
Isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, if you don't drink before you get into tournament angling, get ready because it's going to tempt you. For sure, man. But listen, your YouTube content, going back, coming around full circle to this stuff, what spurred you on the tips and tricks deal, man? Is it's because you have got a method. It's like a 10-minute video seems to be kind of your MO. The majority of them about 10 minutes long. And dude, you cover a wide array. The thing I love about your stuff is there's no clickbait garbage involved here. It is straight and to the point, and you're giving juice literally as if you just came off the water, and you're giving guys, a ton of guys and gals, a ton of information out there. Where did that, idea come from? Because that's really not the norm of what you see out there.
Well, I mean, I can't say I sat down and thought about it. I give my credit to my YouTube channel to Bridgeford Foods, my main sponsor up here. We have yearly team meetings, and we actually have it coming up here in a couple of weeks. And we talk very close, like the management of Bridgeford, the fishing team, like there's always consistent communication, but we have a yearly team meeting where it's a weekend long thing. We sit down, try to figure out what we can do to really help Bridgeford build its brand. And it was, I guess, probably 4 years ago at this point. We met at Table Rock Lake in Branson, and Bridgeford came to the table and said, listen, we feel like YouTube is a good marketing vehicle that the team hasn't tapped into. And we would like every angler on the team to start a channel. And,
Nice.
when I was talking from Bridgeford's standpoint, but Bridgeford's goal at that point was, hey, if we can get everyone to grow a channel, we could actually create like Bridgeford fishing tournaments just through the channel, and potentially create a Bridgeford channel at some point. But really it was a matter of how, if we can create our own audience, we could have Bridgeford related tournaments or fishing shows or whatever that looked like. But
yeah,
ultimately it was, hey, we need you guys to start doing it. And at that point, the only one really, like, I had a YouTube channel. I had 82 subscribers, I think, when we had that meeting. So like I had started putting some content out, because that year it was the FLW tour. I think they required us to record our tournaments, have a GoPro in the back of the boat. So I was like, well, if I'm gonna have a GoPro, I might as well show a couple fish catches.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, it was like, I'll just throw some stuff up there and just to say I put some content up there. But
Right.
At that time, the only one on the team that really was doing anything was Randy Blockett. And at that point I think he had like 6,000 subscribers. So, I mean, I think he had been doing it for like a year or something. And, he had made a comment in the meeting how he's like, if your channel gets big enough, you can actually monetize it. And I think he said he was making $300 a month or something along. It was a couple $100. And I just remember sitting there being like, wait, you can make content and get paid? Because like the only thing I was doing was like Instagram and Facebook. And I was like, man, if I could pay for my cell phone bill every month, like as an angler, that's what we're looking for, is all additional revenue sources. But I really started it, with the idea that I had to maintain my Bridgeford sponsorship. So
that's awesome.
Basically, what they ask is whatever they want me to do, I'll do, because I do not want to lose Bridgeford. And so I kind of give them the credibility. But the problem was at that point, it was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do a channel, what am I going to do? And, I was like, well, I really like to tackle tinker. So a lot of my early stuff is much more along the lines of, molding baits or tying skirts or, bait modifications. And what I found was I actually enjoyed making that content. And it probably was a perfect storm for me, because I've always been an angler that I was very secretive. I never wanted to share anything, but like, 3.5 years ago, when I started the channel, I was also at a much more stable place in my career where I kind of just feel like secrets, everyone knows the same stuff.
Right.
So it wasn't like it all of a sudden became easy for me just to share the information. And I mean, it's done well. I have no complaints. I don't fully understand it myself, but it's done well.
Now, not only do you do the how-to stuff, but I mean, you build rods. You build. I actually your tutorial on building and doing my own custom skirts on jigs, because I love jig fishing, man. It's. I think I'd have jigs dangling from my ears if I could. All types. Yeah, it's true.
No one's stopping you.
Except that common sense thing. That's like right in the way. But no, I learned a ton by watching. You have a couple videos on that, and actually some of the color patterns that you suggested. I went out and actually got me some Christmas tinsel, so I could make sure I had just the right, the stuff that I wanted. And it's like the only time I've ever been to Hobby Lobby, I think, for me, But no, I mean, you do a ton. Do you pour like plastics? Do you pour lead as well? I mean, how far do you go with this?
Yeah, so I've done everything except for pouring plastics. That's the one thing I haven't done. But I mean, I've done everything from hand carving crankbaits to building rods to airbrushing baits to skirts, pouring jigs, molds. I've done all. The only thing I haven't done is plastics, which part of me is okay with that, because I feel like if I went down that rabbit hole, it would be like I don't have enough room as it is for everything. But
have you heard of Berkeley? I'm looking over your right shoulder.
That's all I need. Yeah,
I'm looking over your right shoulder.
It's probably really what it is. Like I guess if you had a specific mold and maybe you wanted to tinker with the colors, but I've always felt like I could make something better if I built it. I can't say I've felt that way about me molding my own baits, or going and say buying a soft stick bait mold and then just making my own colors and stuff. Like, I think that would be fun, and that's like the artistic side of things that I really enjoy. But like when I was pouring jigs, I could put the exact hook that I wanted in it. I could tie the skirt exactly how I wanted with this exact number of strands. Like I just felt like I was making alterations that helped me be a better angler. And, and I say that, but I haven't done plastic, but I can tell you it is something that I'm exploring a lot more, just being a bait company owner. Not saying I'm going to do it, but it is like, are there things out there that I could make that I feel like there's a gap in the market? Right. So like, I'm looking for opportunity. But I will also say one of the things that scares me about it is because I've never done it hands-on. It's like, I don't necessarily have the same comfort level as to what is doable and not doable because I haven't done it myself. Got it.
And it's tough to try to, work your way through that, trial and error period as well. There's such thing as a clock, that's ticking type deal.
Yeah.
So we got a couple guys that were chiming in here on Facebook. Wish they had high school teams like now, like there wasn't school. Yeah, I hear that, man. That would have been nice. Did your high school have a high school team at all, Matt?
No, I'm the high school that I went to, because I grew up in Chicago, but the high school I went to is right outside of Chicago city limits. They actually were the first team to create a fishing team, and then proceeded to get the state of Illinois to be the first state to actually sanction high school bass fishing.
No,
but
kidding.
I missed that by 2 years. And then the college I went to, the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point, started their fishing team, which was one of the first collegiate teams 2 years after I graduated there. So I missed out on it all, which probably is a good thing, to be honest with you, because I don't know that I would have passed any classes.
Right. I hear that, man. Yeah, it's you have the passion with it, but you also wonder what has helped is the maturity to understand, the balance. It's like pre-fishing. Understanding the maturity has to come in that, stop trying to win practice, man. You know, there's no checks for that. So just chill out. You know,
it's definitely, I mean, it's definitely creating a much higher level, more experienced angler at an earlier age. You know, I know there's the arguments regarding advancements in electronics, but the reality is the kids that are coming out of school are much more advanced than the kids coming out of school when I did. I mean, I didn't start fishing professionally until I was 30 because it took me kind of that long to get the experience that I thought I needed after college. Like, I didn't really start tournament fishing until probably junior year in college. So, you know, it just wasn't a readily available thing to a younger person. Right. You know, like I had to go get a job to be able to afford my tournament hobby. And then you had to work your way up to a point where you felt like you could go to the professional level. Now kids are getting a ton of experience at the high school and college level.
Yeah, for sure. So Jimmy out of Missouri says, "Gee, we're hitting Wisconsin together this year." Yeah, that sounds like good. And he had the same idea I did. We want to try to get you in a kayak, brother. We'll get you on I got a new canoe with your name on it. You show us some sections of that Wisconsin River that are like, you know, the juice. We'll keep it quiet. We won't even record much at all.
I could take you to some small river Wisconsin stuff that would blow your mind.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome, man. That's
when are you coming?
I don't know yet. We're kind of waiting. So this will be the first year that I am not chasing a national trail either from or a regional trail from the kayak or from I'm no longer in the boat world. I'm all kayak now. But yeah, we're stepping back from chasing that. And now we're just going to do some bucket list stuff. We're going 100% on the veteran support services side. So we'll be doing field ops events around there. And I have some great contacts in Wisconsin. I would love to go there, do some field ops events up north there. What I would, to be honest with you, what we're really trying to line up for is we want to grab some guys, say out of Missouri or out of Colorado, and take them to Wisconsin and let them experience that kind of fishing up there, you know, during a section of time that we know these would just be once in a lifetime trips, man, because I think, you know, guys like you fished all over this country and you know the special nature that, you know, some folks never get a chance to experience that. I mean, upper New York or
there's a reason I live in Wisconsin and you know, to truly do my career, it's not a good thing for my career because the majority of fishing is all down south. So whether that's, you know, a matter of it just increasing my expenses to travel, it's increasing travel time. The biggest hit though is, you know, I don't get the same experience on those types of fisheries. Like I can't just go out and jump onto, you know, Dale Hollow Lake. You know, there's not anything within 10-hour drive of me that would probably fish anything like Dale Hollow. So it's not a great thing for me from a career standpoint, in my opinion, to live where I do, but I choose to live where I do because it's just a special area. I mean, the summers in Wisconsin are unbelievable. Like I'm not just talking temperature wise, but I'm, you know, fishing wise, like beauty, the nature of it. Like I don't want to move away. That's really what
you're an outdoorsman, and Wisconsin is definitely that, man, through and through. I lived in Minnesota for 10 years and I flat out would tell people it's prettier across the border. I like going across the border and, you know, driving through there, fishing Wolf Creek, Winnebago, you know, that stuff, or coming back because I just think it's prettier country over there. And it is
pretty ridiculous how, you cross the river and Minnesota has a completely different feeling. I love Minnesota too. Don't get me wrong. And I actually think the lake fishing in Minnesota is substantially better than Wisconsin at this point. But I think the feel of the North Woods of Wisconsin are like tough to beat, really tough to beat.
I bet. Yeah, man, that's it is a beautiful section. So that's what we're hoping to do as we go forward, is try to do some of these little destination type trips. It's just a matter of getting our nonprofit into a position that we can you know, find the big Pepsi Cola or Home Depot sponsor that wants to get behind these trips with us. That's the name of the sponsor game never ends, no matter whether you're pro angling or whether you're doing a nonprofit. You're still out there, you know, hustling, looking for it. So yeah, man, it's with core tackle, that's been a huge success out there. I mean, people are talking about it around every corner, and of course, a lot of that brought on that hover rig. I think is maybe got to be the deal that, and that's, to be honest with you, what's kind of funny. Correct me if I'm wrong here. That's not a new technique, man. That's been around. It just was forgotten about, and it's making like that jigging minnow. I mean, that thing, it's coming
Yeah.
back, right? And it's now with
Yeah.
forward facing, it's relevant again, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think timing wise, we got kind of lucky with respect to the timing. The technique of hover strolling has been around for a long time. I just kind of created a one stop jig head for it versus having to use a 90-degree hook and a nail weight. And I just feel like I created a jig head that worked really well with it.
Oh
And
yeah.
then you kind of throw in the forward facing sonar world was coming in, which didn't hurt as well. The funny part with it is everyone calls it a forward facing sonar bait. The reality is it was created when there was no forward facing sonar. So it's not like I use it more so without it than I do with it. I mean, it's probably 50-50, but I mean, I catch just as there's so many applications for it that you don't necessarily need to be using the forward facing sonar. But we being Johnny Schultz and myself, we took um, we took the success of the hover rig, rolled that into other products, and all the other products have really been received very well. And yeah, it's given us some opportunities. It's not I'm not going to sit here and say it's like a big lucrative type thing, because we're really trying to grow the company at this point. So in order to do that, when you sell product, you can do one of two things. You could put it in your pocket, which then makes it really hard to grow the company, or you put it back into the company, which means it's not going in your pocket. So our we've invested it back in the company, and continue to grow it. We've got 4 products that we're hoping to have launched here probably over the next 4 months or so. They're designs
Nice.
that are done. Production orders are either in or will be going in. And assuming those do well, we've got some other ideas that we want to go after. And it's been such a weird thing for me, because we didn't have the intent of like creating this business. And
Right.
we really started with that hover rig just because we liked it so much that we wanted to make it for ourselves, and then hopefully sell some to pay for the molds and basically allow us to get a few in our pocket for free. And if we made a few bucks, then that would be fine. But when we saw the success of it, we felt like we'd have the opportunity to kind of try to grow a brand off of it. And it's been good. I mean, we're starting to get some national retailers now interested. We actually, if anyone lives near an Academy Sports, all the Academy Sports will be picking them up here. They should be in stores here in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, Dick's Sporting Goods. We're hoping to get into Bass Pro Shops, and I mean, it's been a lot of work, but it's
I bet.
pretty cool. I'm not going to complain.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. No, it's now I want your tip on this, because this is something I always struggle with. Number one, I am not a finesse guy. I can't spell the word. I am a bear cub with boxing gloves on. That's how I fish, right? It's
Yeah.
it's power fishing. Braid is my friend. But I need to learn this finesse game. When you're taking that hover rig without forward facing, what is your tip, your suggestion on the best way to maintain, let's say I've rolled over with my 2D and I know that they're hanging at about 10 feet down there, maintaining that contact for that 10-foot range there. Do you have any tips on how to, keep it in that section of the water column on its way back? What type of pre-setup or technique should a guy use to keep it in a strike zone?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important things, and this isn't just with the hover rig, but I think it's something that a lot of your top professional anglers do, is they have a excuse me, they have a really good understanding as to the weight of the baits that they're using, right? So if you want to look at the hover rig, you could be throwing something as light as a 32nd of an ounce, or you could be throwing an eighth of an ounce. But the reality is, like, if you put the same bait on those two jig heads, they will react completely different. One might glide and look beautiful in the water column, and it might fall, a foot a second or 2 feet a half a foot a second, real slow fall because it's actually moving more horizontal. The other one with the same bait might drop straight vertical, and therefore it could be falling 2 feet per second. So it's really up to the anglers to understand the baits that they're throwing and how slight changes can differentiate that. And it's not necessarily just the weight of the jig head that you're throwing. It could be just a change in your fishing line setup. If you throw a hover rig on 6-pound test, you're going to be able to give that bait more movement because there's less diameter in your 6-pound test to prohibit the bait from moving.
Right.
If you were to jump that up to 12-pound test, what you'll find is your bait's not going to glide as much, but it will float more too, because you're actually having thicker diameter, keeping your bait higher in the water column, assuming you're keeping your bait moving. So there's a lot of really minute little things that anglers can do to impact the movement of the bait, but they need to be familiar with every time they make a change in their gear, how that's going to affect it. The similar things just with rod choice. You go with a long rod, a 7/6 rod versus say a 6.5 foot rod. Your movements with your rod tip are going to do different things to the bait because you're moving the bait further with a longer rod versus a short one. So I think oftentimes it's really critical for the anglers to understand how their gear setup affects the baits that they're choosing.
That rod length is a big one. I used to, when I was showing kids and so forth, or teaching anybody new, I do it with a frog just in the grass, and I would show them, like, watch with this rod, because I have an old like a 711 from Randall Tharp had a series that he had with arc rods that's called the Gunnersville Special. That rod's like a 711 pool stick, man. It's just a piece of timber. And I was like, you watch, I'll move this 2 feet here or 1 foot raising up, and look how much further, this bait is moving compared to this smaller rod, move it 2 feet. And so they could actually see it, on the dry land with that. So that you're 100% on with that, it has a lot to do with that, and that's the type of bait too, right? I mean, crawl pattern stuff compared to minnow stuff. Some stuff's going to grab water on the way down. It's going to float more. Some stuff's not.
Yeah.
But that's always my challenge, is that it's a thinking man's kind of fishing, and I don't know if I'm a thinking man much when I get out there.
Well, you mentioned the jig. A jig is a huge one for that too, where I think a lot of people just look at a jig and they go, a jig's a jig. And it's like, man, you can really change the movement of a jig based on the trailer that you choose, based on how you rig the trailer, based on how many strands of skirt material you have. Like there's so many different things you can do to change a movement of a jig.
I love a swim jig, man. It's one of my most favorite search baits. A swim jig with a good trailer on it. I can pitch it, flip it. I can bring it through just about any section of the water column, looking for stuff, drag it, whatever. But yeah. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you taking the time here. We've taken up a pile of your time here for sure. And I can't thank you enough for coming here talking fishing with us. We're excited to see what the future holds with you, brother. We're going to be out here cheerleading along and watching you. And I know we're going to be in Wisconsin, and I'm bringing an extra kayak just in case you happen to be around.
I've been known to catch a few out of a kayak.
I bet.
I enjoy kayak fishing. I don't do as much as I probably would like, but like you were saying before, the ability to get into areas that you can't get other boats. It's a fun way to fish. That's for sure.
It's definitely the solitude thing. The thing I loved, like fishing the Bassmaster kayak series, was I could fish against, the best kayak anglers out there, and I didn't have a co-angler to worry about. It was just me. I didn't have to worry about putting them on fish. I had great co-anglers. I'm not trying to speak ill, but I always took it upon myself, kind of an extra deal, that I need to get them around fish, man. They're here. Yes, it's my boat. Yes, it's my, my fee, but they paid a fee too. And my job is to put them around fish, and give them a chance to actually compete.
Yeah.
I've been backboated as a co-angler. I was not going to do that, type thing. I like it in the kayak game where it's like, nope, it's just me. All I got to worry about is just my dumb butt. And I'm out there and getting her done.
Well, you can buy a double kayak.
That's true.
It would be pretty funny to have co-anglers in kayak.
Right?
In the kayak world, or team event kayaks. Maybe that's what
I was going to say. I don't like the idea of me doing all the damn paddling or pedaling or whatever. No. Co-angler's got to pull his weight. Well, listen, man, thank you so very much. We want to send our best to your beautiful family and through the holiday season here. And like I said, we'll be looking forward to seeing what you plan to do out there. Wish you nothing but the best success out there, brother. We sincerely appreciate you.
Thanks, Gene. I appreciate it, and happy to be on. I love coming on. Anytime you need me, let me know, and we'll jump on with you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much. And if you hang here real quick, as soon as we wrap this up here, I'll catch you right after the show here. Folks, make sure to smash that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe. That's the best way to support the mission, support what we're doing here. That is, it takes no amount of time. Tell your friends and family about it. Facebook's fine, all that good stuff, but YouTube is where it's at for us. That's what we're aiming for, to continue to build up. So make sure to hit that follow piece there. Next week, think we're going to have some folks out of local Colorado scene here that we're going to be talking about the November 9th and 10th dates, the Veterans Day weekend event we have coming up at Pueblo Reservoir. So stick with us here for that. As always, folks, tight lines, be safe.